Tomorrow is not ordinary, and you need to hear this before the day begins. Venus and Uranus meet at the final degree of Taurus for the first time in 84 years. And when a cosmic moment like this arrives, it does not whisper, it cracks. The ground beneath the life you thought was stable. It opens a threshold. It shocks the heart awake. It forces truth into the room. For some of you, this will be the day love changes shape, money changes direction, and the future you were praying for suddenly stops feeling far away, because this is not soft energy. This is not a gentle nudge from the universe. This is the kind of transit that can bring a text you never expected, an ending you secretly knew was coming, a financial opening that appears out of nowhere, or a realization so sharp it divides your life into before and after. Venus rules what you love, what you value, what you attract, what you receive, and what you believe you deserve. Uranus rules the lightning strike, the disruption, the shock, the liberation, the unexpected turn that breaks an old pattern in a single moment. They are meeting at the last degree of Taurus, the degree of completion, pressure, and irreversible change. This is the threshold degree, the final step before the old story is left behind. You may have already felt it building, that strange tension in your chest, that sense that something is hanging in the air, that quiet inner pressure you could not explain. You may have felt restless in your body, uncertain in your relationships, strangely alert around money, or deeply aware that a cycle is closing, even if you could not yet see how. That is because the threshold always announces itself before the door opens. First comes the discomfort, then comes the cracking, then comes the crossing. And what makes this moment so powerful is that Taurus is not random energy. Taurus is survival. Taurus is safety. Taurus is self-worth. Taurus is your relationship to stability, to touch, to money, to trust, to the things you cling to because they make you feel anchored in a world that changes too fast. So when Venus and Uranus meet here at the final degree, the universe is not simply bringing surprise, it is asking a much deeper question. What have you been calling security that is actually fear? What have you been calling loyalty that is actually stagnation? What have you been holding on to because it is precious? And what have you been holding on to because you are terrified of the unknown? This is why tomorrow can feel like a threshold in every sense of the word. A threshold is not just a doorway. It is the sacred point between one life and another. It is where you stand when the old version of you no longer fits, but the new version has not fully arrived. It is where your soul shakes. It is where your instincts sharpen. It is where the universe tests whether you will cling to what is familiar or step toward what is true. And many of you are standing there right now, whether you realize it or not. For some of you, this threshold will open through love. For others, through money. For others, through a choice you can no longer postpone. A truth will arrive. A person will reveal themselves. An opportunity will appear. An illusion will break. Silence will finally speak. And because this is Uranus, it may not come in the form you expected. It may look messy at first. It may look sudden. It may look destabilizing. But sometimes the threshold does not open with comfort. Sometimes it opens with a shock because comfort was the very thing keeping you trapped. If the last few weeks have felt heavy, confusing, or emotionally strange, you are not imagining it. You may have been moving through emotional fatigue without having the words for it. You may have felt like you were waiting for a message, waiting for a sign, waiting for someone to become clear, waiting for life to stop feeling suspended. You may have been holding yourself together while something deeper inside you was preparing to break open. You may have smiled, worked, answered messages, handled responsibilities, and still felt that quiet ache underneath it all. That ache was not weakness. That ache was preparation. Because before a major threshold opens, the soul often enters a corridor of uncertainty. Old desires start to lose their grip. Old attachments begin to feel heavy. Even your usual coping mechanisms stop working the way they used to. You may have found yourself pulled between craving closeness and needing distance, between wanting answers and fearing what the truth might change, between hoping for rescue and realizing you were the one being asked to choose differently now. This transit is not arriving into empty space. It is arriving into a story that has already been building inside you for months. You must understand what is happening now. This is not just about getting what you want. It is about discovering what you were settling for. It is not just about attracting abundance. It is about correcting the places where you accepted less, because some part of you believed that less was all you could safely hold. Venus governs receiving. Uranus governs liberation. So when they meet, the threshold that opens is often the threshold between scarcity and permission, between emotional compromise and self-respect, between waiting passively and responding consciously to what life is revealing. This is why the energy can feel electrifying and unsettling at the same time. One part of you may feel excited, suddenly hopeful, strangely alive. Another part may feel exposed, unsteady, overly sensitive, or emotionally reactive. That is the nature of a real threshold. It does not let you stay numb. It brings feeling back into the body. It wakes up the places you buried, shows you what has been too quiet for too long. Some of you will cry without fully understanding why. Some of you will feel a wave of relief so sudden it almost scares you. Some of you will become aware of a truth you have been dancing around for months. Some of you will feel a powerful urge to change something immediately, and the reason is simple. Your spirit knows the door is open. You may notice it in your body first. A buzzing nervous system, light sleep, vivid dreams, tightness in the throat, tingling in the chest, sudden exhaustion. After days of holding too much, emotional release that comes out of nowhere, a wave of stillness after prolonged chaos. The body is often the first place the threshold appears, because the body always knows when your life is no longer aligned with your truth. If tomorrow feels charged, intense, or strangely significant, do not dismiss that. Your body is not overreacting. Your body is reading the atmosphere of a real shift. And because Venus is involved, your heart may speak more loudly than usual. You may suddenly realize who has been pouring into you and who has only been draining you. You may feel the pain of mixed signals more clearly than before. You may stop romanticizing someone's potential and start seeing their actual behavior. You may feel less willing to chase, less willing to beg for clarity, less willing to keep translating inconsistency into possibility. That is not coldness. That is self-worth returning. That is what happens when the threshold opens and your spirit can no longer tolerate confusion disguised as connection. In love, this transit can be breathtaking. It can bring sudden attraction, a shocking confession, an unexpected reunion, or a rapid shift in the direction of a connection. But it can also reveal the truth of what was unstable all along. If a relationship has been hanging by a thread, tomorrow can be the moment the thread finally snaps. If a person has been withholding, deflecting, or giving you emotional fragments instead of real presence, this energy can make that impossible to ignore. The threshold in love is this: will you keep stepping toward what destabilizes your peace? Or will you finally cross into a standard that matches your soul? Some of you are going to see very clearly that you are not asking for too much. You are asking the wrong person. Some of you are going to realize that you are not difficult to love. You are difficult to manipulate. Some of you are going to feel the sudden arrival of someone or something that mirrors your worth back to you in a way that feels almost surreal. And if that happens, do not rush to control it. Observe it. Let it reveal itself. Uranus moves fast, and not every shock is meant to be acted on immediately. Some shocks are invitations to wake up, not commands to leap without discernment. Now let us go deeper into the money story, because for many of you, this threshold is not only emotional, it is financial. Taurus rules resources, income, possessions, earning power, and the deep psychological bond between money and safety. Venus wants alignment with value. Uranus disrupts what has become stagnant. So tomorrow can bring a surprise payment, an unexpected client, a sudden sale, a new idea, a job shift, financial breakthrough, or a radical realization about what must change in the way you earn, save, spend, or receive. This is where the threshold becomes very real. You may have been stuck in a financial pattern that looked practical on the surface, but was quietly draining your life force. Maybe you have been undercharging because approval felt safer than abundance. Maybe you have been clinging to work that pays the bills but deadens your spirit. Maybe you've been afraid to ask for more, pivot, negotiate, launch, invest in yourself, or believe that your gifts could actually create stability. Uranus does not always bring money by reinforcing the old structure. Sometimes it brings money by breaking your dependence on a structure that was already too small for you. That is why a windfall under this energy is not always just cash. Sometimes it is insight that leads to cash. Sometimes it is a person who opens a door. Sometimes it is the ending of a draining obligation that frees your energy to create more. Sometimes It is a sudden awareness of your own undervaluation. Sometimes it is the courage to stop attaching your worth to struggle. The real abundance threshold is not only external, it is internal. It is the moment you stop believing that hardship is the price of deserving. And if money does come quickly now, treat it with respect. This is electric energy, not careless energy. The threshold is open, but discernment still matters. Do not spend impulsively just because something arrives suddenly. Do not overpromise because excitement makes you feel invincible. Do not mistake movement for permanence. Let the opportunity settle. Let the truth reveal its pattern. Uranus loves speed, but Taurus requires wisdom. It's the most powerful thing you can do is receive without panicking, act without rushing. Recognize that a breakthrough is strongest when it is grounded. There is also a self-worth threshold, opening here that many people overlook. Venus is not only money and romance. Venus is your ability to believe you are worthy of beauty, peace, reciprocity, and support. And many people have spent years trying to manifest abundance while still carrying a hidden loyalty to struggle. Many people say they want love while still choosing what feels familiar over what feels nourishing. Many people pray for expansion while still fearing how visible, powerful, or vulnerable true receiving would make them. This transit can expose that contradiction. It can show you where your mouth says yes, but your nervous system still says no. That is why the health and body section of this transit matters so much. Your nervous system may be highly sensitive now. Hydration matters, rest matters, grounding matters. The threshold is spiritual, but your body is the bridge carrying you across it. If you feel overstimulated, slow down your inputs. If you feel emotionally flooded, do not force productivity. If your appetite changes, if your sleep becomes vivid, if you crave silence more than usual, pay attention. The body is integrating a large amount of energetic information. You do not need to dramatize every sensation, but you do need to respect what your system is asking for. This is not the time to ignore the signs your body gives you. If your chest tightens around a person, listen. If your stomach drops around, an offer, listen. If your whole body softens around a new possibility, listen. The threshold often speaks through sensation before it speaks through language. You are being shown what drains you, what dysregulates you, what calms you, what excites you, what opens you, and what contracts you. That is sacred information. Your body is not in the way of your spiritual life. Your body is part of the prophecy. And now we come to relationships and communication, because this is where tomorrow may feel the most undeniable. Venus and Uranus together can create moments of honesty that cut through months of confusion. Someone may suddenly reach out. Someone may suddenly pull away. Someone may say what they really feel after a long silence. Someone may reveal that they are not who you hoped they were, and you may surprise yourself too. You may speak more directly than usual. You may lose patience for vagueness. You may realize you no longer want to keep a connection alive just because it once had potential. Please hear this clearly. The threshold in communication is not about saying everything all at once. It is about telling the truth without abandoning your dignity. If a conversation is needed, have the one honest conversation, not 10 circular ones. If someone is inconsistent, watch actions over words. If someone only appears when they feel, you moving on, notice that. If someone offers clarity, stability, or sincerity, notice that too. This transit can expose the entire architecture of a connection very quickly. What is solid will steady itself. What is unstable will show cracks. You may also see where you have been emotionally overfunctioning, where you have been carrying the connection, initiating the conversations, interpreting the silences, softening your needs, or making excuses for behavior that repeatedly hurts you. That pattern cannot easily survive a threshold like this. Something in you is becoming less available for self-betrayal. Something in you is remembering that love is not proven by how much confusion you can endure. Love is proven by truth, consistency, safety, respect, and the willingness to meet each other in reality. For some of you, tomorrow brings a romantic shock that is beautiful. A confession, an opening, a reconnection, a sudden turn toward intimacy. But even then, the lesson remains the same. Do not abandon your center just because the door opens. Meet the miracle from within your standards, not outside them. Threshold is crossed most powerfully when you bring your whole self through it. Not the wounded self begging to be chosen, not the fearful self trying to control the outcome. The honest self, the grounded self, the a self that knows what peace feels like. So what should you do during this transit? First, slow the outer noise enough to hear your inner truth. The threshold becomes confusing when the mind is overloaded. Protect your attention. Second, do not chase what is confusing you. Let people reveal themselves. Third, notice what arrives suddenly, but do not hand it immediate authority over your life. Fourth, tend to your money with maturity. If an opening comes, ground it. If a warning comes, respect it. Fifth, say the honest thing you have been avoiding, but say it once, clearly and with self-respect. Sixth, observe where your energy naturally expands and where it naturally collapses. Your life is showing you something very important now. Journaling may help more than endless thinking. Write down what you are suddenly realizing about love, value, work, and receiving. Write down what feels non-negotiable now. Write down the names, patterns, expenses, habits, and fears that are attached to an old version of you. The threshold becomes easier to cross when you name what you are leaving behind. Do not just ask what is arriving. Ask what can no longer come with you. And now let us enter the 3 signs most affected. Because for Taurus, Aries, and Libra, this threshold may feel immediate, personal, and impossible to miss. Taurus, this is your threshold. This is happening in your field, in your body, in your identity, in your relationship with safety, money, love, and self-definition. You are not just observing the shift, you're the shift. For a long time, you may have been carrying weight that no one fully understood. Quiet pressure, silent endurance, emotional labor, financial worry, the burden of staying steady while life kept asking more of you. But tomorrow, something cracks open. You may receive sudden attention, sudden money, sudden clarity, or sudden liberation from a pattern that has been restricting your worth. The shock is not here to punish you. It is here to release you from a version of stability that was built on suppression. Taurus, the threshold for you is deeply personal. Do not shrink to fit what you have already outgrown. Do not cling to people, jobs, or roles that only love you when you are convenient. Something is trying to put you back in contact with your power, and once you feel it, you will not be able to pretend you are small again. Aries, for you this threshold lands in the realm of value, income, possessions, and what you believe your effort is worth. You have been moving fast, carrying fire, pushing through things that others would have collapsed under. But somewhere beneath that strength may have been an old scarcity story, a fear that you always have to force results, a belief that if you stop pushing, everything disappears. Tomorrow can break that pattern. Surprise opening around money, work, payment, or self-worth may arrive very quickly. But even more important than the opportunity is the correction. You are being shown that speed is not the same as alignment. Not every opportunity deserves your energy. Not every source of income deserves access to your nervous system. Aries, the threshold for you is learning to receive without warfare. 2. Value yourself without proving yourself. To recognize that abundance grows differently when it is not rooted in emergency. Watch what arrives now. It may be exactly the evidence you needed that your life can change faster than your fear expected. Libra, this threshold runs through the deepest chambers of trust, intimacy, shared energy, dependency, emotional exposure, and transformation. For you, this may not look simple on the surface. This may feel like a truth arriving in a relationship, a financial entanglement shifting, a hidden dynamic becoming visible, or a deep emotional pattern finally revealing its cost. You may suddenly see who is truly safe to merge with and who has been feeding on your softness without honoring it.
Ow.
You may feel desire and fear colliding. You may feel grief and freedom in the same breath. But make no mistake, Libra, this is liberation. The threshold for you is not only about romance, it is about the end of any agreement, spoken or unspoken, that required you to abandon yourself to keep the peace. If money comes, it may come through support, partnership, settlement, shared resources, or unexpected backing. If truth comes, it may come with intensity, but it is here to restore your balance at a deeper level. What leaves now may be leaving because it cannot cross into the life you are becoming. And for everyone else listening, do not assume this is not your moment just because your sign was not named. The threshold is collective. The shock is collective. The awakening is collective. Taurus, Aries, and Libra may feel the lightning most directly, but all of us are standing near this door in some area of life.
Ow.
All of us are being shown where value has been distorted, where peace has been negotiated away, where desire has been confused with destiny, and where a more honest future is now asking to begin. So if tomorrow feels strange, significant, charged, or unforgettable, trust that. If something changes quickly, breathe before reacting. If something beautiful appears, stay grounded enough to receive it. Something ends, ask whether it was ever truly stable or whether you were simply afraid to leave. And if a door opens that your old self would have been too afraid to walk through, understand that this may be the very reason the universe waited until now. Because you are not who you were. Because your standards are changing. Because your spirit is done mistaking survival for fulfillment. This Venus-Uranus conjunction at the final degree of Taurus is a cosmic threshold. And thresholds are holy because they ask for courage. Not perfect certainty, not control. Courage. The courage to stop calling chaos chemistry. The courage to stop calling crumbs enough. The courage to believe that your life can change in a day. The courage to receive without apology. The courage to let a false stability fall if it means a truer life can begin. Tomorrow may bring the message, the money, the ending, the opening, the invitation, the realization, the shock. Beneath all of it is something even more powerful. A return to your real value. A return to your nervous system's truth. A return to your soul's standard. That is what this threshold is ultimately about. Not just what enters your life, but what you are finally no longer willing to live beneath. So go slowly. Stay awake. Protect your energy. Watch what reveals itself. Honor what your body knows. And when the threshold opens, do not freeze in the doorway between the life that hurt you and the life that is trying to reach you. Cross it. Consciously. Courageously. Completely. Because the old paradigm does not end gently when the universe has been trying to free you for this long. It ends with a shock. It ends with a truth. It ends with a moment you never forget. And for some of you, by this time tomorrow, love will look different. Money will move differently. You will know in your bones that the future has already begun. If this message found you, it found you for a reason. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not imagining the shift. You are standing at the threshold now. And what you do with this moment may echo much farther than you can currently see. So choose with clarity, receive with wisdom, release with dignity. And remember this, when Venus meets Uranus at the final degree of Taurus, the universe does not ask for your permission to change your life. It only asks whether you are awake enough to recognize the door when it opens.